Hard hat's all about showing up to play hard, doing what it takes to win.
If you want to cement legacy, win another.
He's your third center.
You don't want to pump him up too much, but it's hard not to.
This is maybe the most I've ever agreed with you.
What's going on, Sherrod?
What's going on? Wow.
Saturday night. Chat's been rolling for a while. Thank you guys for joining us. Really, really, really satisfying win if you're the Celtics fans. And yes, this is the Luke Kornet show. Luke, it was so good. Doris said the line. She said the line. He's your third center. How lucky are these guys? Look at this. He's a third center. Yes, it is. It's the Luke show. It's the Tatum show. It's a lot of things going on, but look, we'll get into every individual performance for sure. Thing that pops for me right out of the gate, and yeah, this would be a Toscano hard hat game, but he's off singing. He's regaling people with his pipes right now. But the this was great just because it's in New York. You're down two players, you're down two starters, and you go in there and you just drop the hammer on them. And you've already done this to them once before. They've seen this movie. Right. And they didn't want to see it again.
The sequel is even worse, though, to me.
The sequel's way worse because now in the standings, you have to cut the lead. You get to within a half game, even up in the loss column with this if you're New York. You knew they were geeked up for this. It's a primetime, nationally televised game at the freaking Garden. Snow outside. You got that.
You got Denzel and Spike Lee courtside.
And I always love me some Matthew Modine. He doesn't get enough love, but he's hanging there too.
True.
And they're there. Chris Rock courtside. You've got the celebs. And they just got drilled in another embarrassing way, like they did opening night. And this has to make you feel, if you're a Knicks fan or if you're a Knick, that you're not there.
You're not you thought you were.
You're not. So night one, shooting variance, I guess. And there was a lot of that tonight too. Celtics shot the lights out. Tatum had one of those crazy Tatum games. Pritchard couldn't miss. So I guess you could chalk it up to, well, they shot the lights out twice. But if I'm looking, the thing that stands out to me is I cannot see how a team with Brunson and Towns on the floor at the same time is going to be able to defend the Celtics. I just don't see it.
We saw how problematic that could be tonight. And the biggest issue with that is not only can those guys on the floor not defend the Celtics, but then when you go at the other end of the floor, when the Celtics are playing help side defense the way they did tonight, you can't beat them. You're not going to be able to beat them. In New York, this game was pretty much a wrap, even though the score didn't reflect it. But this game was a wrap by the early second quarter because New York, they just could not figure out any way to combat Boston's ability to take away all the stuff that they wanted to get. It's like when they would get even a crack of space at the rim where they're looking to score, there would be someone coming from their blind side to take that shot opportunity away. And flip side, defensively, the thing about Karl Anthony Towns that I think sometimes we forget is that the reason Minnesota gave away the farm and then some was because they had no interior presence defensively. That's why they went and got Rudy Gobert. And now you're starting to see why Minnesota was so freaked out about having Karl Anthony Towns as their lone or primary defensive interior presence guy, because he can't do it. I feel bad for him in some respects because he is a shooting guard / small forward trapped in a 7-footer's body. And no matter what he says he's going to do, and no matter how position they want to put him in, he's never going to get away from that.
Yep. I
mean, Tatum destroyed him at both ends of the floor, and that shouldn't happen. It shouldn't happen at both ends of the floor. You should be able to make their 6'8", 6'9" power forward punish him if you're a 7-footer. And Karl Anthony never could do that.
Yeah, and look, let's be fair, because again, I do want to, you don't want to cherry pick facts here. He was doubtful, upgraded, I think, to questionable. So we actually didn't think he was going to play, and he did play. Mitchell Robinson, who I guess plays basketball for the Knicks, also isn't there.
He's on a payroll.
He's on the payroll. He's targeting a March return, but again, that's another player who can make a difference if and when he was ever able to play. I just, I need to see it first. And, you don't have, Anunoby.
OG, right.
So you're without OG. So both teams have issues. So you're not seeing what it would look like if they faced each other fully healthy in the playoffs here. But, you got to consider it a wash, if not, New York coming up on the plus side in terms of who was available to them tonight. And they still drilled them. So
they got
drilled. I will say, I see what Judah's saying here. This happened, and we're not going to pretend it didn't happen, but the Celtics came out with that kind of defensive focus that you talked about. That's the best defense I've seen them play in the beginning. And I know the Knicks were cold too, but a lot of it was because they were just up in their shit the whole time. In that first quarter, they were switching, helping, doing everything right, really making those things tough. Nothing was easy there. Brunson wasn't able to buy his way to the free throw line yet at that point in the game. And they were really, really, really struggling to get off any decent looks. And I'll eat this one right out of the gate. You're without Kristaps and you're without Holiday. What are you going to do from the starting lineup? I did not think you were going double big with Kornet and Horford. I just didn't think it.
Didn't see that, yeah. And it worked. My God, it worked.
It worked instantly. And not just did it work instantly, they double big all night with Kayada and Luke and Kayada and Al. Even put some Tillman minutes in there. Made a huge difference. The offensive rebounding was a huge story. The rebounding in general was a huge story in this game. The Celtics bigs ate them up. And without Porzingis, when would you think you'd be able to say that? They ate them alive.
And this is the problem for a team like New York. If the Celtics bigs are eating you up, and that's like the weakness of the Celtics, what the hell are you going to do? Because you're going to get outplayed. The Boston Wings are going to outplay you 9 out of 10 times. You just know that you just have to live with that. But when you are getting your ass handed to you by Luke Kornet, by Kayada, by Al, you have no shot at beating this team. In fact, if you can stay within like single digits, you're actually playing well. Because if they're dominating the play, I mean, Luke had 4 or 5 rebounds, I think, in the first quarter, and Kayada, I think, had like 4 or 6 points or something like that on putbacks. In the first half, there was just no way New York is going to win this game when those two guys specifically are outperforming you at the level that they did in this game.
Yeah, and so let's kind of start with it, and really what it got down to. You had Tatum, you had primetime Tatum. This is reminiscent of primetime Rondo. Is that what you were thinking of? No.
John, we're there. I'm thinking this is playoff Rondo that we saw. As far as there's
not
the way
just
you play
playoff Rondo. Primetime Rondo, for those who don't remember, was one of the greatest phenomenons ever.
That guy was a Hall of Famer.
Legit Hall of Famer. In all nationally televised games. Unbelievable. And Tatum had that kind of shine to him. And then things got a little cold, and I was like, okay, he settled back into it. Then he had that third quarter where he just lost his mind.
Yeah.
And the game really took off from there. But a crazy Tatum game. And yeah, look, I'll say it because there's people in the chat saying it now. Turning point in the game is when everyone's going to hate me for it. When Brown was a sloppy mess for a couple of quarters in this game. When he sat out and it became the Tatum show in the third, they were already on a bit of a run when Brown went down. They went 14-3 off of that, extending what was a total 19-3 run. That the game took over from there. But when it went into Tatum takeover mode, everything their offense got a little funky, and they did let the Knicks get back into it. They started getting a little complainy with the refs, who were awful all night. Arbitrary bullshit. Refs right next to plays not blowing the whistle, and the guy across the court blowing it. A guy getting mauled, both sides. Cat, Tatum were getting mauled sometimes. Going to the basket, and then other guys getting those little lean into you. Brunson, 11 free throws. It was that stuff was frustrating.
No consistency, right?
Yeah, it was a frustrating game, but yeah, they you know, they got to him, and again, I agree with Kess here, and I said that earlier. They D'd him up early. Celtics got away from their stuff a little bit, but the bigs saved them all game long because they battled. They were on the boards. They were a presence down below. Even a couple times, I know Bobby's always looking for these openings, and just there was a couple of times where Brunson, on a pick and roll when Kayada was out there in the third quarter and Bobby comes in. Oh, Kada's not going to be able to stay in this game. He did fine, Bobby. He did just fine. He was great. Kornet was great. That kept him in it. And then they just hung in there long enough until Tatum went into takeover mode. And that.
Yeah. I mean, this, again, there wasn't a ton of stuff that you cringe about if you're a Celtics fan in this game. It was by no means a flawless game, but the stuff that they did well, that's the Celtics have the ability to do well. They really did it at a high level in this game and just took the life out of New York early on. And even when New York had, kind of trimmed it to 3, you never really felt that the Celtics were on the verge of a total collapse. You always felt as though they were going to figure out how to get back to doing what they are good at. And let's be honest, this is kind of the blueprint for the Celtics. I mean, they've consistently been a better team on the road than they've been at home. And so whenever they have a little bit of adversity on the road, you don't really feel as nervous Nelly about it as you do at the Garden, at the TD Garden, because they typically find ways when they put teams in really tight jams like this on the road, they typically find a way to seal the deal. And this was just another one of those nights. You're muted, John. I think you're muted.
I hit it. It didn't come out.
There we go. Okay.
So yes, but great. Again, great. And so we're back to this kind of, and like I said, we'll get nitty gritty on the game itself, but just taking the step back on it, you're looking at it's that who the F are these guys sort of thing, right?
Right.
You've got the Cleveland game, which, Joe Mazzulla himself said was imperfect. And it was, but it's still Cleveland, and you won that game on the road.
Right.
Then you lose that Dallas game, and all of our heads explode. Then you go on the road and you beat the Knicks again. Which one do you buy?
And now you're going to Miami next. Again, that you should win. But does anyone feel confident that they're going to go there and handle their business?
Which of these in the ones the team that played Cleveland in New York, or the one that shows up once every 3-4 games and makes us want to question why we do this with our lives?
Yeah, as much as we hate to embrace it, this team is committed to being one of those flip the switch squads, because there's no other explanation for how you can absolutely beat the crap out of New York, lose to an undermanned Dallas team, but then beat a Cleveland team, but then find yourself struggling against subpar to average NBA teams on the next night. And often the wins that you put together against really good teams like New York, you do them undermanned. So it makes even less sense for you to be able to handle that. This team, I think there's a subconscious flip the switch action switch that they're flipping. And they'll say all the right things about, no, we're taking this one game at a time. We're taking everyone serious. Bullshit. Because there's no other explanation for why you can absolutely have your way against the next best team to you in the Eastern Conference and then struggle with a team that is at best mediocre. You have to be believing that you can just flip the switch against the really good teams, and you don't necessarily have to flip it or play at a great level against the non-great teams. And that is a dangerous game that they're playing. Dangerous game. You're muted again.
I put up the comment in the chat here because this is exactly what we're talking about. I get it, right? This is the push and the pull with Celtics fans in general. There's a faction of people that are like, can you guys shut up already? Can't we just be happy? They're 37-16, number 2 in the East. They're not even playing great. Blah, blah, blah. They've had some injuries. What, they're a couple games off last year's pace. What the hell is everybody freaking out about? And then there's others who are like, yeah, it's not right. Something's not right. It's not the same. And it's frustrating. And, because, it's almost like, it's like Severance, Are we getting their innie or their outie? You know, like who are we getting here? You flip the switch and it's somebody totally different, unrecognizable, has nothing to do with the other version. So you don't know which one it is. And knowing that the other one exists, if that switch is flipped in that direction, you're friggin' you're like, oh man, you know, and you don't want to see it. But on the whole, it's really hard to argue with the overall results of the season. So I get why people are frustrated or they hear complaints like this. I also get why people like our friend NHC77, and thank you for the super chat, would be like, yeah, it drives me freaking crazy. It drives me crazy too.
Well, you know, we're constantly trying to figure out what is this team's identity. And this is it, that they are going to be feast or famine. They're going to play great against the great teams, and they're not going to play great against the not so great teams. They've been very consistent with that this year. And to me, it's a dangerous game when you come playoff times, because that first round opponent is not going to be a very good team. It's going to be a team that at best, record-wise, will be average. Are you going to struggle to get out of the first round and then maybe hopefully figure it out? Or are you going to, you know, make the mistake that, you know, at least one team does every playoff year, and that is lose to a lower seed? And often they lose to the lower seed because they don't play with the same focus and attention to detail and all those little things that got them that lofty record. And that's my concern for the Celtics. I'm not concerned about them facing a team that's better than them. I'm concerned about them facing a team that they don't play their best basketball against. And there are teams that when you look where they're going to finish probably second in the East, so they'll play one of those teams out of that play-in bracket. There's going to be a team there that could potentially give them some problems. And again, that's the thing that we all want to see with these guys is consistency. Either play at an elite level and be consistent with that, or play average consistent. But don't tease us like this, where you are absolutely, you know, 23-24 Celtics NBA champion squad, or you're like, you know, the team 2-3 previous years before that would play good and great some nights and absolutely got off of the other, and you never really know what the hell you're going to get. I mean, it really was like, you know, just like Russian roulette, you know, basketball version with what you were getting with this team.
Yeah, no doubt. And so again, I'm still waiting for all of it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like I just need it. I want to see that. And again, maybe it's post All-Star at this point. It probably will have to be, just in terms of really seeing that. But you really just want to see them do it for that 6 to 8 to 10 game stretch where you're like, this repeat emotion. Because it's, again, not only repeat the winning, repeat the process. Watch them go series of games where the defense looks like it's the way the defense is supposed to look. You're doing all of the little things. You know, you're doing well in effort stats as well. You're not being sloppy. You're not, and you're running your offense. You're not just hoping threes fall and you have an easy night at the office. You want to see all of that sustained for a longer period of time. That's kind of it. Is even when there have been wins, they've been like, that win sucked against that team. You know, so like the scoreboard, you know, the standings will say they won 3 of 4, but it's like that those guys had nothing and they had to come back from 4, you know, like that's I think what you want to see here. We are I'm getting Joe Mazzulla queued up for us. We do have Bobby and Noah down at the game. And they are going to chime in a little bit. In the meantime, here is Joe after the game talking about the win over the Knicks.
Yeah, I mean, I think that their team's one of the best teams in with their runs, right? And they do it in different ways. Transition, offensive rebounds. I thought they picked up their defensive, physicality, and we knew they were going to make a run there. But I just kind of liked our poise. Just continue to stick to the game plan, stuck to the details. I thought we played pretty good basketball for like 46 minutes, and it was they test you in that, and so guys did a good job.
What happened with reception before the game, and when there's a late scratch like that, how do you go about adjusting sub patterns, those sort of things that follow through?
Yeah, he was sick, wasn't feeling well, tried to play, but he just couldn't do it. So, but when that happens, it just gives guys another opportunity to step up. So that's the great thing about the locker room is guys are always ready. Luke ready to start, Nimi, X, everybody. So to me, it's just about the connectivity of the team. When stuff like that happens, next guy's got to be ready to go and do his job, and they did a good job of that tonight.
Luke and Nimi playing together, I think we saw it in 4 other games. How do you go about maintaining
Yeah, I mean, the spacing, it just looks different. So it's just not going to be what it is when there's 4 out, 1 in, and that's okay as long as we get the right execution and what we're trying to get to. So the spacing is different when you're double big than when you're one big, and we just have to fight for that regardless of that. And that gives us different versatility. So, but it was a credit to those guys, man. They were ready to play, when we had the late scratch. So.
Obviously, with Kristaps out, you could have gone smaller. Instead, you stay with double big lineups most of the game. What convinced you to do that in this matchup, and then how were the bigs able to help you kind of wall off the rim as well as you did tonight?
To me, it's more about just having different ways that you could play, and so the season presents opportunities for that, and we need to be able to be flexible, to win the matchup at that particular time. And I thought tonight that just won the matchup for us. New York's one of the most physical teams in the league, and they do a great job on both ends of the glass, and so we were able to counteract that a little bit with our physicality. So. It was a credit to the guys, though, for playing, as hard as they did, especially defensively. They were really well connected. All of our bigs. I thought Al, I don't know if he took 2-3 shots, but his defensive positioning and physicality was tremendous.
What kind of mentality did Jason Tatum come into this game with?
I have no idea. I didn't talk to him, but he was ready to play, and that was special. I just thought he did a great job.
Damn, Joe.
Just kind of taking what the defense gave him.
Look at Abby like that. Damn.
His ability to just play versus different coverages throughout the game, get the shot.
Does anyone ask about the T-shirt?
That was a special performance.
He has every reason to be tired.
Who?
Well, Jason.
Yeah.
But you rode him a lot in the first 3.5 quarters. What's that dynamic like when you're just continuously you kind of go away from your usual rotations and say Jason kind of carrying us? What's that?
To me, it's just you kind of get the energy of the game, you get the feel of the game, and you're just communicating. Okay, what's it look like? We took the one of the media timeouts a little early to get him back in and give him a little bit a rest on one of the other ones. So you're just communicating with all the guys what that looks like, and with the late scratch, you have a little bit of freedom to be able to do that. So, but that was big time by him tonight.
I know that this stage doesn't mean much to you, but did you see it mean much to Tatum on this game, this team?
Yeah, I think once you get out there, and you feel the energy of the Garden and you feel the energy of the two teams, I think once you get out there, it was obviously a game that the guys wanted, and it should be that way. But at the same time, we have to do the same thing, 36 hours, whatever it is from now. So but it was a great environment, and I thought the guys kind of relished in that and stuck together.
What does he provide when he has one of those starts with the Celtics?
Who? Oh, yeah. Again, it goes back to just his ability to be aggressive, right? And his pick and roll reads have been great, right? Whether it's with Jason, whether it's with the 5. And so he just does a great job of just kind of finding advantages. And we need him to continue to play that way. And, it's great to watch him.
That Biggs connectivity, was that how you guys were able to hold Karl-Anthony Towns under 10 points?
You tally up all the ways that they're able to score, and you take a few of those away. We didn't do a great job at the free throw line. We got to do a better job defending without fouling. But we were able to just take away a lot of the stuff that they get through some of the details, and the positioning and the details were on point, and it took some of that stuff away.
You said 46 out of 48 minutes. Did you feel like this was one of the most complete wins of the season?
It was up there. It could be. Again, like I said, we fouled a little bit too much, but we did a lot of good things. But I think for the entire 48 minutes, we played with a level of connectivity on both ends, and that's the most important thing, regardless of the results. So we just got to continue to fight for that, and we got to just continue to win in the trenches, win the margins, and I think we did that. We did that again tonight.
Joe, Jason moved into the top 10 all-time in franchise scoring tonight. You're very open about how prideful you are in coaching him. When he reaches a milestone like that, do you feel some sort of pride towards him?
I just feel I'm happy for him. I feel grateful. When I joked with both of them that I didn't have that on my bucket list to coach those two guys, and so it just kind of happened. And I'm really grateful that I get to coach him, and so I don't take that for granted. But it's big time for him. He does it the right way, and so for him to be able to accomplish that while focused on winning and being a great teammate is really important. And I think he's still underrated. He's one of the best players out there.
Thank you, Joe.
Thanks.
First team All NBA multiple years. I'm not sure how underrated you are when you're first team All NBA for.
Was he still talking about Brown or Tatum, or did he lump Brown into that convo? That's what I wasn't sure.
I thought he was still talking about Tatum.
He was. Yeah, I don't know.
I don't know. But again, hell of a win. Tatum, I thought he did so. I mean, the points obviously. I mean, when you put a 40-piece in the garden, that's a big deal. But to me, it was so many little things he did, like his rebounding, connectivity, and potential. Oh, we're gonna go with connectivity, potentiality. That one I agree. That's a new one.
No, it's the intentionality that always drives me nuts,
as opposed to just being intentional.
Yeah, I love the
it.
intentionality is great.
I love it. This was a good win, and again, I think this is one of those games where we're going to focus a lot on Tatum scoring, obviously, but little things like rebounding, boxing out, contesting shots, being in the right place for help side defense, little things that don't always show up in the stat sheet. I thought he did a really good job. I thought as a team they did a really good job at that. There was a definite intentionality to what they were doing as a collective group.
Yeah, I'm putting this up here, one, because this is another generous super chat from our man NHC777 who wants his voice heard, her voice heard. Look, someone put the record up earlier.
Mm-hmm.
I'll get Sherrod's take here on this. Mine is simply that it's almost like the cheat code aspect of Porzingis when he's in there, because what's so funny is they're losing while Porzingis is playing really well. Mm-hmm. And it's almost because you went 20, 30 something games without playing with him. And then you're like, oh my God, remember this guy that unlocked everything that we did? And all we have to do sometimes is just get a switch and just get it into him at the free throw line and let him go to work. And it's basically unstoppable. And we can run our entire offense that way and nobody can do anything about it. And it's hilarious. They do. And it's like, it works. Sometimes not perfectly, but it's like it's always there. But it might take the rest of them out of the flow of their offense in terms of what they're doing. So the balance of how they're working him in and while getting everyone else who needs touches, because last year they were doing that, getting all of that good stuff out of KP, but it didn't end with him getting it every single time. I feel like every possession ends in his hands every time he gets the ball in there now. There was a little bit of more ball movement in there. There were more screen actions where he was popping out, sometimes a little bit more going to the rim. Right now, I feel like they're just lobbing it in there and everybody's standing around. And I think that's messed them up a teeny bit offensively. So I still think they're trying to remember, how did we do that thing where all of us were awesome at the same time last year? And then together we were this unstoppable Voltron, force. And they haven't figured it out yet, but I'm not putting it on KP. I disagree that to the bench is a solution.
No, I think there's a couple things going on. First of all, last year, people like to point out the fact that, they missed him a lot of games last year, but it was a controlled scenario with him missing games. Like, for example, tonight, this was a late game scratch. They weren't planning to play this game without him. And they've had a number of those type of situations and scenarios where the game plan was for him to be out there. And then at the very last minute, he's not there. And so they've had to really kind of figure out how to navigate without him much more on a fly this year than they've done in the past. And even when they've had a plan for him not to miss a certain number of games, guys get into certain roles without him. And then all of a sudden he's back in the mix and now the roles have to change. And there's always a period of adjustment. And they really didn't have as many of these highs and lows as far as that is concerned a year ago. So even though he's missing games similar in some respects to what happened last year, the impact that him missing games and the timing of them preparing for him to be out is a little bit different, and it's thrown things off a little bit. But the bottom line is this: when you get to the playoffs, you are going to need him to win. I think the Celtics were damn lucky to get a championship last year and not need him as much as they could have possibly needed him to get over the hump. I don't believe the Lightning is going to strike twice. I think for them to win a championship, they're going to need him to play. And the more he gets into a flow and rhythm of doing the things that he's accustomed to doing, the better I think they're going to be in the playoffs. Because remember, at the end of the day, that's what this is about. This isn't about whether they can, with their record with Porzingis, is what is he going to do once we get to the playoffs? Can they win with him on the floor in the playoffs? And I think more times than not, they are going to find a way to get that done.
I agree. I think it's, I don't view there as a correlation with their record with him and not. You need him. I mean, you were lucky. Like, that was exactly it. Like, they had to, like, this is where the way the playoffs played out and the injuries and this and that, this is where it helped them. They were steamrolling everybody regardless. And with Porzingis, I don't even think it's close, but that was the equalizer there, where luckily they weren't fully tested by a team that could have given them some problems there. And I really did say that, Porzingis not playing in that Dallas series took what I thought was an 80-20 or a 90-10 series and made it 60-40, 65-35. Like, it gave Dallas a puncher's chance. I didn't think they had a chance in the world with a healthy Porzingis, like, for real, none. So yes, you absolutely need him. And I think it's almost silly to say otherwise. We're going to hear from Peyton Pritchard, who was next to Tatum, the best offensive player, on the floor tonight, ahead of Brunson even. He was, absolutely ridiculous, hitting daggers all night. Real quick, we want to tell you about Prize Picks because we're very close to the big game. That's tomorrow, Sherrod.
Yes.
We'll talk about big game food in a little bit too. I wish Jimmy was here. He always makes these weird little buffalo nachos or something.
Yeah.
Anyway, check it out if you get in on the action with the big game coming. Download that Prize Picks app, more or less on at least 2 players. Win up to 1,000 times your cash. Great promos, as you saw on the screen. Taco Tuesday, Flex Friday, all that stuff. And the deal right here, play 5, get 50 instantly using code CLNS when you download it. But the best promo you're going to get in this is the big game free pick. And that's a free square, basically, 0.5 pass yards on Patrick Mahomes. You pick that. There it is. That's going to convert 1 square for you right out of the gate, making it that much easier to cash in. So make your play. Download that app for new users. Promo code CLNS. Play 5, get 50 instantly. Prize Picks. Run your freaking game. Back to this game. And as we mentioned, Peyton Pritchard was smoking. Another huge one for him. And again, you need it with Holiday out. And people are it's funny, people are having the Porzingis conversation, and they're not having the Pritchard over Holiday conversation, which I figured was the one that people were more likely to have after a game like this. And we'll talk about that as well also. But Pritchard, 25 points, 6 of 8 3-point field goals, really like an outstanding game for him. Again, here he is in the locker room after the game.
Wow. Let's do it. What does this tell you about the team, or what you need to do to be successful looking forward for the rest of the season?
Just staying locked in. We were looking forward to this game, but, finding that type of intensity for every game. And, I thought we did a great job tonight. We spaced the floor really well. Our bigs did a good job cleaning up the glass, and our guards just made the right plays, made the right reads over and over again.
Is there one single thing that you need to be doing that's more important than anything for you to be successful?
I don't know if I can pinpoint one thing, but it's just the intensity, being locked in. It was definitely there tonight. So, we're capable of doing really great things. So it's got to be that every night.
When did you find out KP couldn't go? Luke said you
right before the game. Yeah, Joe came in and Luke wasn't in here, so Joe told me to tell Luke to get ready to be in the starting lineup. So, but he did a good job. So get thrown in right away, but he did his job tonight.
How special is this group that you guys can do?
Joe doesn't talk to players.
It's the next man mentality. This group is
apparently not all players.
Got a lot of talent, and I think people are ready for the opportunities when it comes. I know I am. So, and I think that carries around. From,
hey Peyton, I need you to do me a favor. Can you tell Luke he's starting tonight? Thanks.
Well, I knew once KP was out, I figured Luke was starting. So Joe came in looking for him, and I would just let him know that. Like, I'll tell him. So it's that simple.
What's it like, obviously, like the run in the third there? It's
Brian Olive, my man in the back.
You out there with Jason. Is it a little challenging to play in some lineups like that?
No, it's not challenging. I thought Jason did an unbelievable job tonight too. He didn't rush his shots. He got to his spots, and he was money. He broke the lead open for us, and that's what a superstar does. What he did tonight.
When he goes off like that, and you guys get off to that kind of start, when you're coming off the bench, how much responsibility do you feel to carry it over?
I mean, honestly, I never try to carry that weight. For me, it's just about making the right reads every time. So, I had 2 shots in a row I hit, and then the next 2 plays I think I hit Luke, and it's just making the right read. That's how I judge my game. It's not makes or misses or anything. It's about the right reads, and I thought I did a good job with that.
Right. Very rarely does a player fall in front of you with his back to you. Did you see it, Chua? And what's kind of your reaction when you're like, okay, I got to shoot this? Or
I mean, yeah, obviously he's on the ground, so I passed it to JB. He threw it right back. So I don't even know if I was like deep or not. If I was right on the line, I didn't even look down, but I just saw him down and non-contested shot. So I was going to shoot it.
What is it?
Rough night for a Chua.
I mean, it seems like range is not something you think.
Brutal.
Got dunked on.
Say half court.
Started bad.
I got to put a little more on it, but I feel like it's funny. Last game. Kyrie made a comment to me, and he was like,
"I want my 11 back."
It's almost like a volleyball line, considered on the NBA court. He's like, that's like the modern 3 nowadays. Like realistically, like people are capable of shooting from out there at a high clip. So, and I really believe that. Like, if you're not gonna guard out there, then you got to shoot it.
Last game, you and the bench unit, you guys were down by like 20-something, and you guys made that late push, and you kind of spearheaded that. Like, I know it's a game away, but like, how important is that just to have those moments? And for you as a leader of that unit, like, what was that like? And does that carry over to tonight for you personally? I
mean, definitely for me. Like, I try to take advantage of those because, you can get stuck in a role sometimes, and you can become a little bit robotic, and I definitely get caught up in that at times. So, I always got to remember to stay aggressive, even if the role doesn't call for that at times, but in transition and stuff like that. So, having those moments and feeling the flow of it again and attacking and getting in the paint, it definitely helps create that confidence going into the next game and just carrying that over. So I know my team needs me to be aggressive, and that doesn't mean shooting. That means just, making the right reads. If they're not there, shoot the ball, but attack closeouts, create a 2-on-1 and make the right read.
How have you gone about developing a two-man game with Jason in those second units? You're working on it a little bit.
Definitely. I mean, like just being confident, throwing certain passes. Where does he want the ball? When does he want the ball? Obviously, he's our go-to, especially in that lineup. Like, so we know we're running things through him, but it's just understanding when it's my time to be aggressive off that and when is it time to run it through him. So it's a balance, and I think we're only going to keep getting better and better at it.
How much sweeter is it winning in this building and silencing that crowd?
All righty, we're going to get Bobby and Noah jumping on in a little bit. So that's that. But Peyton Pritchard, terrific. I got to throw up one more super chat. The guy's going to throw down. I'm not going to ignore this type of effort and commitment. And thank you for saying that. We do appreciate it. I think there's other great Celtics shows out there as well. I think there's terrific ones on this network. And if you're not watching the Big Three with Sherrod Blakely and Gary Watt, doing it wrong. If you're not watching First to the Floor, I know most of you are watching First to the Floor. Terrific show with the Aussies down under coming in and breaking things down. Celtics late night after the games and then doing just stuff throughout the week and really creative, fun, interesting stuff. Also an awesome show, but we do appreciate the hat tip here and the donation. So thanks a lot. We do appreciate it. Everyone out there and all of you guys who watch, even if you're not contributing, you don't have to. It's with we feel the love. It's not all about the money. We feel the love. We do. Yeah, Pritchard was awesome. And again, so these are conversations are going to be interesting, and everyone, is going to be like, oh, you're just a merchant of chaos here. And trying to stir shit. But it is interesting how a couple of things have changed the dynamics, right? In terms of this year. Horford, I thought, acquitted himself fine tonight. But I mean, we're talking about the bigs and we're talking about Al and Kayada now. I know there was some brief conversations about Porzingis And are they worse without him? And I disagree. I think it's fair to ask any questions. Honestly, it is. But I do think the questions that we're going to start asking in the last third of the season here, is going to be, who are you riding with? You saw this a couple of years ago when you had the White, Smart, Brogdon situation, and the default was Smart and White, and it was the wrong call a lot of times. And now you're reaching a point where it's going to be like, you've seen it happen a couple of times, but are you sitting Pritchard for Holiday, or is Pritchard going to start playing the majority of fourth quarters in games when everybody's healthy? And then the other question is going to be, at what point does, and I can't believe I'm saying this it's probably best I'm saying this without Bobby here.
Yes.
At what point does Luke become second center?
Ooh.
I said it.
Ooh. John,
because he's.
Go ahead.
I'm just saying.
John, I am going to slip you the keys under the bars so that you escape being a hostage of the moment. This was a great game for Luke. He's not your second best center yet. In fact, I mean, in this game, to be honest with you, I thought it was kind of like 2A, 2B with him and Kayada. I thought both of those guys had pretty significant impact. I don't think Luke is playing good, but I'm not quite ready to lynch my backup wagon to Luke just yet. In fact, I kind of like having him as my third center.
No, guys,
every now and then can deliver.
I have to say this. You're wrong. You've got the wrong guy here. I am the biggest Holiday stan out there. I'm saying
really
at what point are these conversations being had? I freaking love Drew Holiday. All I'm saying is it's going to be hard to deny what you're seeing and what's happening versus a guy who's definitely struggling a little bit, even from where he was last year, or at parts of the time, the season this year, whether it's the shoulder or whatever it is. There's something not all the way there yet, but you can't be a bigger fan here. This is not reactionary. It took me 50 games to get to this point, and I'm still not all the way there. I'm saying this is a conversation that's going to be interesting to have as you get closer into it.
I think what you'll see with that though, John, is I think that the minutes will fluctuate a little bit more so and slant a little bit more towards Payton if he continues to play at the level that he's at and Drew continues to struggle. But I think the Celtics, the plan going at this point is to keep Drew in that starting lineup, play him low range starter like minutes, and hope that he can kind of build himself back up to being the player that we know he is. Because even when he's not playing great, he's playing good enough to help them win games. And I still think Pritchard is going to get his minutes and going to be able to make an impact. So I don't think there's going to be any rush to make any radical change. But to your point, John, I do think that if Drew continues to struggle, Payton continues to play at a really high level that we've seen, you're going to start to see the minutes reflect that, where you'll see I play 18 or 20 minutes and Payton might start playing 25-ish. And there will be that shift. I think it will happen at some point. I just don't think it's going to happen anytime soon, though.
We will see.
Luke, Luke, and back to Luke really quick. He's playing great basketball, but I still say and feel that Al will remain ahead of him in the pecking order if everyone's healthy. But Luke is certainly making things interesting. I think we're at the point now, John, where this is a legitimate conversation that we should be having. I don't think
it is. Why are people afraid of this? And I'm not a prisoner of the moment, and it's not about recency bias. I'm literally saying it'll be an interesting conversation if trends continue in the way that they are now. That's what I'm curious about, because I'm not sure how that's going to go.
Right. And that's where I'm glad you cleared that up, because I thought you were saying he should be the backup center. That's where I was a little thrown off.
No,
I'm not ready for
that. Look, I'm sorry, but we thought 20 was something.
Whoa, Eric Polanco, my man. Wow.
Here's the thing. I think realistically, Horford's always going to be the backup. Because
even if his minutes don't reflect that,
he's always going to be, because he is more versatile, can play in every situation, whereas Luke, in some situations, cannot against certain teams, more athletic teams, teams where you have to do a lot of switching. There will be times where Luke is going to be a tougher matchup. And we saw that. We saw that in the playoffs where he couldn't get on the court against Cleveland because it wasn't the type of thing that he could play in, Indiana. So there's just certain that's going to be the case again this year. The Knicks are a perfect type of team for, here for them to do what they did with the bigs. So it's not surprising. It is going to be Al, but it is interesting right now because Luke's playing so well. It's almost,
I wonder what Noah thinks about this.
We'll get Noah on as soon as we're certain she's good. She's setting up here from New York, Bobby, coming on momentarily. And as soon as we have them, we will switch it over. While we wait to get Noah fully set up, we will let you know about one more of our sponsors, and then we're going to hear a bunch of post-game sound as well from Luke himself, Jason Tatum, and Derek White. But first, a message from our friends over at Game Time.
This episode is also powered by Game Time, the best place to get tickets to the games, events, and concerts you want to see. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Game Time is filled with terrific features like all-in pricing, so you know exactly how much you're paying. No surprise fees at checkout. You also get panoramic views from your seats in the app, so you know exactly what you'll be looking at before you buy. Plus, a lowest price guarantee, or Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code CLNS for $20 off your first purchase. Terms to apply. Once again, download that Game Time app, create an account, use code CLNS for $20 off your first purchase. Terms to apply. What time is it? It's game time.
And as you see here, the Celtics will be returning home next week, and the first game that you will get a chance to potentially see them is against the San Antonio Spurs and Wemby, the new and improved San Antonio Spurs, with De'Aaron Fox as well, and Victor Wembanyama. And that is, we were talking about it with Jimmy last game, really one of the must-sees and really an exciting opportunity for people who've never seen Wemby up close. It is something. So check it out. If you can, and if you want, like I said, take advantage of Game Time. Terrific app. It's what I use when I want to get into concerts or games that I can't get into on my own. Game Time's my little buddy. Ticket prices go down the closer you get to tip-off or showtime. And the features are great. As you can see, the panoramic views from your seat, all-in pricing. So download that app. Use code CLNS, $20 off your first purchase. Terms to apply. Let's bring in Noah. And Noah, what was your primary takeaway from tonight's extremely impressive and satisfying win over the pretender New York Knicks at the Garden?
John, I'm so happy to see you satisfied. I think this was a great win. I think this was one of the best wins of the season, if not the best. Not as far as like this was so fun, because I think there have been more fun games, but just as far as a complete effort. Like I really felt like they responded so well to that Knicks run, and everybody knows good teams are going to make pushes, and that was kind of textbook on responding to that run. And there were so many things to like. We talked to 4 guys post game. We always talk to 3 guys post game. But I feel like today there was just, you had to talk to all 4 of them, Luke, Tatum, Pritchard, and Derek, and each of them kind of played a big role in this one, but they're a different team when they are fresh off of a loss. And I don't know what to make of it, but it's really something. I had no doubt that they were going to win this game. And I haven't felt that like normal games this season, but tonight definitely.
You're muted, John.
It didn't feel, even when it got down to 3, that was happening. I didn't get that vibe either. But yes, they snapped out of it so quickly. That was the best part about it. When the Knicks had cut it down, if it kind of stayed there for a bit, and you saw it 6, 8, and it was like, oh man. But as soon as it got to the worst point, the Celtics just boom, gone. And kind of, put them behind him there with that terrific run. I think it was 19-3 run there in that third quarter where Tatum went nuclear and pretty much did it all. How much of that was the Celtics self-correcting, Noah, and how much of it was Tatum just being superhuman?
I think sometimes when he goes through these stretches like tonight, it is a little bit superhuman. Like obviously he's capable of the kinds of performances, but there were some shots today that were not. They were on another level. But Derek was a big part of that too. Like he had I think 11 points in that little run there, and I think that those two guys like offensively have been so important to this team, and Derek has turned it around like this past 3 weeks, and that's been huge. And then obviously, Jason Tatum, when he's playing like that, I think he's the best player in the league, and it's just that he's not, it's not consistent, those kinds of 3-point shooting performances. But when he's like that, it's like there's really nothing you can do.
Can I be the one guy who doesn't love heat check Tatum? Like, I love that they all go in. I just don't know that that's always sustainable. But I will say I thought he worked for more of his baskets, and he had, like 4? Did he have like 4 dunks tonight? You always like to see that as well.
Track. Yeah.
I remember at least 3.
Yeah, at least 2 or 3.
So that was good too. But then he just got unconscious. You know what, though? Those are fun to see. I don't want to be the wet blanket on it. I don't know that you're going to go. That's just not going to happen every single night. But when it does happen, it's nice to sit back and, with your bucket of popcorn, watch it and have fun. Because those are you're due a few of those, right? Like, how many 40-point games has he had this season? Is that only his second?
Could be. And the other was
it
against
hasn't
the
been
Knicks,
many.
right?
Yeah, 37 against the Knicks, I think. Yeah.
So you expect like 7, 8, 9, 10 of these, right? So it shouldn't be this rare. You should get more Tatum explosion games because
we've had this debate all year.
You're entitled to it, right? Yeah, to the sit back and let the best player cook, and just there's nothing you can do. Sorry, this one's in the bag because Tatum's out of his mind right now. You want more of those, right?
Yeah, and they love to have him. I'm sure Tatum would love to have him, but as he's talked about throughout the year, he's trying to play make and get guys involved and make the right passes and not attack double teams and all that. And that's something Joe's stressed with him. And they've obviously had a balance of rotations and shots and everything else with Jalen there. So there's a lot that he's balancing. And if he was trying to take over every night, I don't think we'd love that either. I think we'd see worse versions of it than this.
But I want to ask
it does need to happen. It does need to happen more often than not, because as we've talked about all year, when his usage goes up, when he's more involved, when he's the focal point, they've been dominant. They've been at their best. And I think it just continues to show with not only each passing game where he's playing more and shooting more and doing all that, but the second units with him out there and guys who are just trying to play off him, and he's the centerpiece and it's heliocentric. Those look great. They always seem to look amazing. And Pritchard's benefiting from it, and the bigs are catching the offensive rebounds and just rolling off him. And it looks awesome. And you do imagine a future, John, where maybe certain, guys going in and out of the door here into the future. Obviously, he's going to be the guy who's here maybe for his whole career. It's going to look pretty cool when he's able to really run the show. Now, there'll be pitfalls to it for sure.
Well, let me ask everybody this, Bobby. Is this because this was part of the Kristaps Porzingis conversation we had earlier. Someone asked, the record with Kristaps is worse than without, and should they bench him? Is he a problem? And I don't think so. But what is interesting was whatever it was that worked last year, where everything worked and everything was a cheat code, and it was like, he'll beat you, he'll beat you, he'll beat you. Now it feels like only one thing can be working at a time more often than not. Like when you're going into Porzingis in the post and it's this cheat code and everything seems to be going fine there, it feels like, he's getting whatever he wants, but then other people are suffering as a result of it, and you're not running a Tatum-centric offense. Or when Tatum sits and it's Jalen's turn to cook, or when Jalen's got to get his touches so he gets in his groove, it's taking Tatum out of it. And Bobby, you've been kind of banging on this usage thing. Do you almost need to go back to some form of roles or expectations, or just stuff the ball in Tatum's hands and be like, guys, this is where we start, and then we'll figure everything else out off of this? I'm wondering if it's almost become too democratic at times, and that's one of the reasons why What looks sometimes inconsistent or imbalanced?
Well, a lot of times it's just going to be based on how they're guarded. And when Tatum sees more single coverage, as we've talked about in the past, he's going to be able to take advantage of that. And I think in this game, he was able to get to good spots and quickly shoot, and threes falling helps too in that circumstance. So I can't imagine they'll go away from trying to find balance and keeping guys involved and everything like that, because there's obviously more to it than the offense. They need guys locked in defensively and invested, and everybody needs to feel good about themselves. And I think that's something Tatum understands too. So you'd love a world where Tatum could average 35 and solve all their problems every single night. But they need everybody here. They need all these guys, even all the way down to Hauser. Like, all these guys need looks. All these guys need their rhythm. All these guys need to be able to give them their best. So as much as I have pushed for a little more Tatum, a little more revolving around him, I get why they don't want to go in that direction. And there's still the rotational effort to have Brown feel good and get his looks. And, in this game, John, I will give Joe a lot of credit. I feel like everything flowed well through all the lineups. You had your Jalen stretches, you had your Jason stretches.
What do you think, guys? Like, does it need to be a more Tatum? Do you need more Tatum right
you need
now?
A little
because
more.
Again, Noah, Sherrod?
More Tatum. More Tatum. I mean, and because one, he's your best player. Two, the numbers bear out how much better you are when you're getting more Tatum. And so that there really isn't a whole lot of reasoning behind why we don't see more of that, other than you just want to just kind of spread the wealth, so to speak, a little bit more. But it's really not about spreading the wealth. It's about putting the team in the best position to win games. And the numbers don't lie. You're at your best when Tatum is a significant central focal point of what you do out there.
Honestly, I think it ends up being a lot more about how he's being guarded. Like tonight, I don't know what they were doing to him, but like they really were not overreacting to him at all, and it cost them because he had a really good game. And there have been lots of nights where teams are blitzing him. There was a game like a week or two ago where they were blitzing him when they were up by 30. Was that the Bulls game, the Bulls home game? And it was just like, if he was like, I need to take my 25 shots because my usage and because that's when our team is at our best, then it would have not been a good coherent offense. So I think it just depends on making it not to be like a Celtics bot, but like making the right read, and like genuinely, sometimes it's not him taking 25 shots, but tonight it definitely was. I mean, he had a lot of good looks. Besides for a couple of those heat check threes, like he had a lot of great looks. And I'd rather, I think they can win different nights. Like some nights it's going to be a Tatum explosion. Should we see more of these? Probably, but a lot of times it's going to be Jarek has 20 and Jalen has 20 and Drew has 15, and like those nights are fine too. I do think there's something to the Porzingis starting lineup rhythm thing, and I know people were so mad when we suggested earlier in the season about like maybe they do better off with him coming off the bench, and he's been phenomenal in the last like month and a half. So I don't think it's as slight towards him, but
I can't figure that one out. Like
a guy like Luke, there's no plays being run for him, right? Like Luke is just finishing around the rim, cleaning up a little bit. He was great, but he's not, there's no plays being run for him. So I don't know if it's just one of those things that like there's just almost too many cooks in the kitchen. Like I felt last year, even when they were down guys, they were better. Like down a starter, they really thrived in that chaos. So I don't know if it's Porzingis or if it's just almost like too many stars that need the ball.
That's it. What's funny is you can't do it differently with this team. You have to let them all be involved. It does obviously have to do with Howard. And if Tatum's getting triple teamed, he's got to be the table setter a little bit more. He's getting blitzed all the time. Ball's got to get out of his hands quickly. He's going to be more of a facilitator. Obviously, like the defensive matchups and how teams are playing them make a difference. But this is the problem with super teams is it's not ego as much as in order to utilize everybody's strengths, sometimes there's almost just too many. I hate saying too many cooks, but there's just too many people, too many mouths to feed. It worked last year beautifully, but it's hard, right? It's hard because at any point in time,
this is what we expected it to look like last year.
Yeah, exactly. How is it going to work with these touches? And it did. But I'm looking at tonight's game, for example. We're not going to spend a freaking second talking about Derek White. He was great, but he only took 9 shots. He was 4 of 7 from 3. If you wanted this to be a Derek White game, Derek White could have had 30 tonight if you just denied him open. He was in a groove, but he was just barely involved because he didn't need to be super involved because you were going in other directions with things. Like, it's so easy to forget about people, and they could be having great games or in a groove, and you're not always going to be able to maximize not only the talent you have overall, but the hot hand sometimes, because it's got to run. And Sherrod, you got to lean over. You're all a little off the screen here. You got, because Tatum's going to get his touches. Porzingis is going to get touches. Brown's going to get his touches. It's unavoidable. It's unavoidable. So it's a good problem to have, but I think that speaks to maybe some of the struggles more so than anything else, which is like, that didn't work this time. Maybe it'll get him next time. And, I don't know what it is. It's slightly different than last year, and it shouldn't be. But
that's why they need to. That's why they need to play their democratic.
This might be an in the future thing, which is like, it's going to be hard to have a team. It's going to be hard to have this type of team for much longer. And it's why it's nice to have role players and really a number one and a number two and a guy who shoots.
I mean,
we'll look at Luke in a minute. We're going to hear from Tatum first.
Okay.
No,
he knows.
It's incredible.
It's crazy.
If a player makes all his shots in the game, a teammate, did he take enough shot, or is that just the perfect execution on the game?
Wait, what'd you say?
If a player makes all the shots in the game that he takes, did he take enough shots? I mean, I would
It's
say
like a riddle.
It's like an SAT question.
Right.
Just anybody. I'm just.
Luke picking up. Luke picking up.
How was it playing this game?
It was great. It was great for us to respond the way that we did, especially with some guys out tonight. I like the way we were connected on both ends of the floor. Our toughness showed tonight.
Jason, you were aggressive from the jump. What was your mentality coming in?
We lost last game, so then finding out the KP was out right before the game, knowing that it was going to be a challenge. And I saw Denzel Washington sitting courtside, so I was excited about that.
Had to put on a show.
Tried to.
What do you feel like gets you going on those stretches? Is it like the longer minute?
Guys, does it get good?
Is it free throws? Like, what do you feel like kind of sparks some of those?
I mean, usually come when I may play the whole quarter or
yes,
a longer
Bob.
stretch.
Am I waiting for anything good off of this?
But yeah, you see some free throws go in.
Okay, we'll let it ride for a little bit.
Transition, then the tougher shots feel a little bit easier.
How do you kind of sustain through those longer stretches of minutes? Do you know they're coming? Is there a way to prepare for that? Like, off the floor, like what kind of prepares you for that?
I mean, I try to take care of my body as much as I can. Eat the right things, drink a lot of Gatorade, and take some naps.
Well placed.
I play here a lot, but just the atmosphere, it seems like a movie, for regular folks, just to be in that and hear the defense, and they want to stop you and you quiet the crowd. What's that like? Do you ever take that for granted, that whole just kind of feeling?
No, it's besides Boston, it's probably the best place to play. They got all celebrities, but they also have that. They got an edge about them, right? They know basketball. They're passionate. They chant and cheering the whole time. So it is a special place to play.
But is it an advantage? I mean, because a lot of times you hear that the opponents actually thrive on going into Boston as well. So sometimes, to New York as well. So sometimes it might, go the opposite
actually,
way.
they thrive going into Boston.
I mean,
He's right.
I don't know. I got to ask the Knicks players that.
Yeah. You mentioned the bigs. How important were they? I mean, Karl Anthony Towns was held under 10 points.
Big Luke played his ass off today.
Yeah.
You didn't make me wait around for this, Bobby? I almost cut this off.
He kind of really set the tone to start.
Forgot about it.
Contesting, blocking shots, rebounded. Obviously, Al did his thing, and then Big Neem came in the game. And
that's because Bobby hears that every time Luke plays in his head.
Rebounds.
Luke played his ass off tonight.
Even X came in.
I can't wait. Did we hear Luke yet?
Kudos to those guys.
We'll get there, Bobby. I'm not going to deprive you of that.
They're in layup lines.
Slow down, Bobby. We're going to get there.
We adjusted and played the right way.
Joe said he felt like this was the most connected.
Bobby, I'm a pro. I'm not going to play the Luke sound without you, buddy. We're not going to do. We already had a bit of a Luke conversation, and people got mad at me for saying nice things. I'll just tell you that it got ugly.
So, before we went to that, I was going to say, you mentioned, John, it's good to have role players, guys who need the shots, all that. When Luke started this game, and you saw it, I texted you guys a couple minutes into the game, and I was like, this is ABC. Luke's starting. Everyone around the country, around the world is about to see Luke's growth, how good he's been lately, how well he plays off everybody, all that.
We need some music playing in the background with this soliloquy that Bobby's giving us right now.
I had zero doubt in my mind that he was going to have a massive game here. And maybe it wasn't going to be 14-12 or whatever it was, 3 blocks. But he was just going to be doing all kinds of stuff that you were going to go, wow. And you just see it. And when he plays out there, remember, John, in training camp, I was like, maybe they should start him. Because when he's out there with the regulars and all the guys who are making stuff happen, he just makes the game easier for those guys. He catches it. He makes a quick pass. Someone else catches it. And, the offense is just flowing. He's screening all over the place. There was a Horford 3 early where he's screening the guy like by the basket who's supposed to be covering Horford, and Horford hits a 3. He's got like 6 offensive rebounds in like 2 minutes. He's everywhere, and he makes stuff happen.
Sherrod, do you see what he does to me? Before he jumps on, I in earnest say that, you know what? It's feasible. We can start talking about whether Luke should be your second center. And then this freaking guy comes in here and starts talking about him starting. He has to one-up me every time and then make me push back on it. I can't ever say nice things without Bobby having to raise the stakes. Like, we're going to try to get him to the All-Star game next. I mean, it's impossible.
Let's get him some MVP votes while we're at it.
But Noah also predicted a Luke Kornet game, and she's not compromised. So let's hear from Noah for a minute.
Yes. I think you're muted.
Noah's got the Brockton Wi-Fi.
Try again, Noah. All right, fine, Bobby. Go. No, we can't hear you, Noah. No audio
it's
at
the
all.
universe saying, I need to keep talking about Luke.
It is. Look at exactly. All right, go ahead, Bobby. Yes, now we got you, Noah.
Yeah,
please, God.
Yes.
Please.
I don't understand what's happening.
Okay.
So I was just gonna say, I don't love defending Bobby on this, but he's right. Like, there is a case to be made. He's had one of the highest net ratings over these past few months. He just elevates this team. It's not about what he's doing. It's about what happens when he's on the floor. Like, offensively, they just seem more connected when he's on the floor. He just, the chemistry is there, the years of experience that he has playing with these guys, and his just own individual improvement. Like, this is the ultimate win. Whatever Bobby predicted was going to be with Luke, like, he should ride this high. He should say, I told you so, because this is what we're seeing, like a really great NBA player. Like, he really is. So I'm all the way there. I'm all the way on that side. Again, like, go ahead, Sherrod. No,
finish,
please.
No, because you're almost there. I know you're near the end, so you need to finish. Go ahead.
No, I just think, like, he's become really important for this team. And there's obviously nights where he hasn't played, and he's one of those guys that you don't have to worry about his ego. You don't have to worry about him kind of getting in his own head or whatever. But, like, nights like tonight have become pretty, common, and you can expect them, and you can kind of count on him to put together these kinds of performances. And that's when you become a really good player, when it's not like a one-off.
I just want to be clear. Are the two of you advocating for Luke Kornet to start?
No, I'm not. No, I'm not.
I'm just saying,
Bobby?
when he's out there with the starters,
Bobby's answer is
amazing
I
things
kind of
happen.
am.
Yeah. Bobby's yes. That's a yes.
No, and it might not be starting. It's getting him more minutes with the starters, maybe the way you're running your rotations, maybe just getting him more minutes in general. But he needs to be out there more often, because when he's out there, good things happen. And he's 24th, at least based on the numbers I have right in front of me here, in the plus-minus category since the new year. He's been floating in that top 20-ish territory for a little while now. You know what? Maybe it is the perfect role, perfect amount of opportunity and minutes and whatever else for him right now. But all I know is he's just excelling through them each night. And again, John, the thing you said that set me off there is
Bobby, he
a
was a
guy on the
minus
floor.
20. He was a minus 20 one game ago. We have to.
Okay, everybody was though. Everybody was.
I
bad.
know.
That wasn't his fault.
He was unplayable. Like okay.
And he was amazingly awesome tonight.
It
and
wasn't
that
his
was
fault,
his
John. How
fault.
could you blame him?
Oh God.
That's not his fault. Oh shit.
But
Also, I just want to say, when I say Luke Kornet is a great NBA player, that doesn't mean that I don't recognize he's not like an all-star center. It just
Did you
means
say
like,
that?
at the end
he's
of the
your
day,
third center.
I said he's a great NBA player, and everybody's getting mad at me in the chat. Like, great is not a limited scarce thing. Like, you can have a lot of great NBA players.
This is the thing
Noah,
about
these
Luke,
are
though.
Noah, this
Why do
is
we
the
have a
genesis.
premium on positive words in this?
There's not, because this is the genesis of phenomenal. Because instead of saying normal words, like Luke's been really solid, we say he's phenomenal, and we're like, okay, it's not phenomenal. He's been good though. Can we give you good? And Bobby's like, no. Phenomenal. Nothing.
This is phenomenal. Look at that stat line.
Good is boring.
I love it.
Yeah. So
this
just
is
back
the
to your
concern
point,
with
John.
Luke, though. Bobby,
Go
this
ahead,
is let me just ask you this though. Is there a concern?
My only concern is he's made himself $15-20 million a year, and he's going to be out the door after this year.
Wait, what did you just say?
I think there's a big contract waiting for Luke Kornet in free agency this offseason if he continues doing this.
If he continues to go 7 for 7 and get 12 rebounds, you're right. You're right. If he continues to make every single shot and get double-digit rebounds in 29 minutes, there is. Well, Bobby, is that realistically going to happen? Probably not.
We'll have to see.
And Bobby, this is my concern with
And
Luke,
yes,
though.
we are going to give love to the fourth center too, by the way. But let's keep going here. Let's
finish off. There is this thing known as diminishing returns, Bobby. And I feel that Luke right now is at that kind of the max of what you're going to get from him. And if you extend him more minutes, do you really think he's going to get better than where he's at now with more minutes?
That's a real concern there.
That's why like the role that he's in now and the way that they're utilizing him now, this is the perfect storm for Luke Kornet to have a long and lengthy NBA career. If he's your third center and you're giving him maybe backup center minutes every 3 to 5 games, and he's giving you these kind of performances, you can justify floating him between your second and third center. But when you make him your starter, that means you're on the scouting report from the very beginning of the game. That means whatever it is that you do well, teams are going to figure out a way to say, what else can he do besides that? And now all of a sudden, you're not quite getting 7 for 7, 12 rebounds and 3 blocks in 29 minutes. You are spending probably more time next to Joe Mazzulla than you would like. And people are wondering, well, we told you so he wasn't that good. And it wasn't that. It was the fact that you put him in a role that he could not be successful in. And that's the concern I have with shifting Luke into a more prominent role, is you're going to be putting him in a situation that he, frankly, will not be the best version of Luke Kornet in. That's what I'm saying.
That's what happens with all bench people. When you're, if you're thrust into starter minutes, it doesn't necessarily suit everybody well, and that's fine. But again, he's been awesome, and I don't disagree with Jake here for first to the floor. Boy, I mean, I don't know if he makes some title contenders, but boy,
they'd be better.
There's a couple teams out there who would love to have a Luke Kornet right now. I don't know if they'd love to have him for 20 million, but they would.
Oh, I do. They don't want it for 20 million.
So I don't know if I dropped this earlier in the year. I think I alluded to it, but over the summer, he was obviously out there in free agency, and there were a couple of teams after him. And there was, I believe, if I remember it right, an $8 million offer out there for him from the
Tatum
Jazz,
Pritchard money. But the Jazz.
More.
Danny Ainge.
More than. Yes. Who originally traded for him. So there was interest last summer. Luke wanted to stay. Luke stayed for the minimum, got him his no trade clause, and look at the season he's having. You're fortunate. You're super fortunate that Luke decided to come back here. And, It'll be a bummer if he ends up leaving, for more money after this, but he's earned it at this point. And the fact that he came back and he took his game up to another level here probably cost himself, whatever it is, the difference is there, 5-6 million by staying, but gets to contend for a championship again, has given this team some amazing minutes and continued the Kornet experience to a 5th year here. And it's been great to watch. And again, John, just a guy out there who doesn't need shots, who makes things easier. This is what you want, John. You want more guys like Luke on the court.
$20 million would make him the 20th highest paid center in the league. He's not getting starter money. Okay, just please. We gotta have reasonable conversations. He's not getting $20 million. He's great.
I'm just
Let's
saying.
leave it there.
Maybe we should start talking about Pritchard.
I'm joking about
Let's listen to Luke.
Luke was trolling the entire presser, by the way.
I love this guy. I really do.
So, Peyton said that he was the one asked to tell you that you'd be replacing Kristaps in the starting line. When did he track you down, and what was your reaction?
Please don't say to John.
Scratch and you'd be in the first unit.
Yeah, it was during the layup lines. Just like he's coming back. He's like, you're starting, and I don't know. That happens sometimes. I just kind of told myself before the game that I was not throwing away my shot. Trying to be young, scrappy, hungry, and I just wasn't going to throw away my shot.
7 for 7. Did you shoot enough?
I feel like guys did a great job, finding me and stuff. But frankly, I'll just never be satisfied. So I feel like, it's a great environment. We're playing in what some people would say is the greatest city in the world, and we're just, trying to be collectively some minds at work.
They shot 8 for 27 inside the paint in the first half. What went into kind of making those lower percentage shots?
Honestly, I just feel like our physicality and just kind of hopefully trying to make things, hard on them, and I feel like we did a good job of that.
You ran out of reference.
Yeah. No, not yet.
Where do you feel like that one ranked among some of the better games you've had in your career?
I feel like just like my intention and physicality were good. Obviously, I think sometimes just plays just sort of lined up. It's obviously a lot of fun playing here, and I feel like that environment just kind of makes it an exciting game. And JT played great, and I feel like the crowd kind of gets you into it. But it's important to kind of just stay focused and try not to. Not the rabble that screams revolution, because those fans they don't really have your interest at heart.
What do you maybe enjoy about the double big lineups and kind of your role in there?
It's a lot of fun. I feel like defensively just having that size and presence. I think Al's great. Obviously KP's a lot of time with that, and then being able to spend some time with Nimi on the floor. It's a lot of fun. Honestly, we look forward to it, and Yeah, I definitely enjoy it. I just think just defensively and kind of just trying to crash the boards and be aggressive in that side of things. But fortunately, we have a lot of bigs, I feel like they have a good feel for the game and know how to just space and work off each other. So, that works pretty well.
Does anything change when you are not coming off the bench? Like normally you get to kind of take the game in and kind of see how it's going. But when you're starting, is there any advantage to it or just?
Sorry, no, I killed it before your question. What was the answer there?
I don't remember. I gotta look back.
Sorry.
I think he said that. Yeah, it wasn't that interesting.
Go ahead.
No, it's fine.
So while Bobby, we'll get back to Luke when Bobby finds his way back to the show. But the thing we led with was your overall impression of the Knicks here. And again, it's easy to say it's one game, you can't, but now this is twice where the Celtics have done this to them. Both times without Porzingis. Both times shot the lights out, even though the first game was, even more ridiculous here. And Tatum had monster games in both. But just looking at the Knicks in general and whether or not they're truly a team the Celtics are going to have to worry about contending with down the road. I think a lot of us thought this was the number one team. I know, there were some thoughts of Philly as well too, but felt like the Knicks is going to be okay, they might get there. And they might be a problem. And I don't want to base it entirely off of this. I don't think they can be in a 7-game series against the Celtics, even if both teams are fully healthy. And I know, each side is missing a couple of guys here, but I don't know that team with Towns, who again I know is hobbled, and Brunson playing the minutes that they're going to be playing is going to be able to defend at a level to be able to hang with the Celtics and beat them 4 times in 7. I'm not going to say I'm completely not concerned, but they're way further down my list of worries here. I'm starting to wonder whether the East is really a 2-horse race.
Yeah, I mean, they haven't looked great in these games. Still just 2 games and everyone overreact. And I do think that OG Anunoby probably is the most important missing player here.
Yep.
Between the 4, the 4 key ones that are missing. I don't even know what to make of Mitchell Robinson. He hasn't played all year. At his best, he could be a key part of this matchup. But again, I don't even want to – I'm going to assume that he might not even be there because he's just been so inconsistently available. But I don't feel – I agree with this commenter on here. Like, I don't think the Knicks are a huge threat. The one thing I will say is that the Celtics are probably their biggest threat here, like themselves. Like, if they don't come out and approach any of these any of these series in the East at their best, like, anybody can beat them because it's basketball, and we've seen that at a very extreme level with some of these regular season losses. But at their best, and they're going to be locked into a series against the Knicks, whether it's the first round or the second round or the conference finals. Obviously, they're not going to overlook this and this team and the hype and the building and everything. I feel really good about this matchup. And I don't think it's a coincidence that they've had 2 great wins and also that Jason Tatum's had 2 great games, because I don't think they really have an answer defensively for this team.
Yeah. I mean, there's the more as we get closer towards the end of the season, I'm paying way more attention to the standings than I normally do. And I look at a team like New York, where most likely in the first round, you're going to play somebody like Miami or Orlando in the first round. And right now, Detroit's in that 6th spot, but Orlando, Miami are right there as well. I'm not sure New York is even going to get out of the first round of the playoffs, to be honest with you. Because, John, the point that you made earlier, and I think it's a really important point, when you get to the postseason, we've all seen this. The game slows down. Whatever flaws that you have defensively, they get exposed exponentially in the playoffs. And Karl Anthony Towns and Brunson are major problems. And to your point, Noah, when you don't have a guy like OG, he can clean up a lot of the mistakes that they make defensively, because OG low key is a really good help side defender, and they need that desperately when you've got 2 of your starting 5 players who more times than not are going to get beat off the dribble, or they're going to get posted up and scored on. So the New York. To me, they're going to be a feast or famine. They can get all the way to the conference finals or get knocked out in the first round. And that's just how they're built. Because, again, everything will come back to, are your flaws going to get exposed at a high level? And the Celtics by no means are a perfect team, but their flaws are much more manageable than New York's. And this game is an example of that. I mean, New York was missing, 1 starter? The Celtics were missing 2. And then they beat you by damn near 30 points on your floor? Come on. That's a problem, New York. That's a problem.
Cross them off. Cross them off the list.
I wish we didn't have to, but it's hard to imagine that this is a team that that's going to stand between the Celtics and get into the NBA Finals.
We spent a third of the show on the 3rd center. I think it's only fair that we spend a couple of minutes on the 4th center. Look, I'll say this, and I'll eat this right out of the gate. When I saw the starting lineup, and you know they were out. If you were just out Holiday, he's going double big with Horford. I thought it might have been Hauser. I didn't think it was going to be double big with Luke, so I was a little bit surprised there. And not only was it a good decision to start Luke and go double big in this game, it was good to do it the whole time there. Yeah. It was like. And Kayada, Bobby, I forget what you said, hadn't really played rotation minutes in a while here. Gets them early and made the most of him. He was awesome. Again, just super active. And again, he's a flawed player. I know you're very quick to point out literally every single time he gets crossed up on a pick and roll or something like that. And you got to get him out of there. But he was really good tonight. I thought Kayada gave him a lot of activity, a lot of juice, a lot of energy. And he Towns couldn't get it. Towns couldn't get anything going on him.
No.
Yeah. And he got out to the perimeter, was able to get out on Brunson, put some pressure on him on switches. I was concerned when Kornet picked up the 4th foul there that they were going to have to go to him for a longer stretch there and he might get targeted. And he did at times, but it didn't hurt them. And his activity offensively at times made up for it. So definitely capable minutes from a player who, as the minutes have reduced here and the playing time grown more inconsistent, has returned to some of his inconsistency as well. And that frustrated me a little bit. I understand you don't have minutes for all these guys, but the intriguing thing you've discovered in a couple of recent games here is that he and Luke can play together in certain matchups and certain circumstances. And it looked like a desperation lineup against the Grizzlies the first time we saw it. And it started okay and then, went to hell pretty quickly. There's obviously spacing limitations with 2 non-shooting centers out there, but however they made it work in this game, and I'll have to go back and watch it a little bit. They went on a 20-14 run with he and Luke out there together in the first half, and then that look fared well again in the second half. So that might be something you can get to in certain matchups at times if you really want to increase the pressure on the offensive glass. It's a pretty good duo to do it with. And then the Horford-Kayada minutes were pretty good. Horford able to guard the ball, Kayada able to roam a little bit, block some shots, and do all of that. So, he's what, John, like your 9th best player or something like that,
good for 35 mil
any given night. The fact that he's your center, but he's also like your 9th best player, John. You'd like to be able to get him in more often.
I think we're looking at that the wrong way. I think you have to look at each person for what they bring and what that game needs. And Kayada brought a lot of what this game needed, which was great work on the glass, both offensive and defensive side, and really, really, really good paint presence there. Anytime they tried to get down low, there he was a problem there. Cat had problems with him, Noah.
Yeah, I thought to not be able to not have played like really at all over these past few months and to just come in and bring the energy and have big plays. Like we talk about stay ready and it's almost like a trope at this point, but that's the definition of staying ready. And I do think it's super underrated how difficult it is to have no idea that you're going to play tonight. Maybe you won't play for this entire road trip. Who knows, right? And then you come out and I thought his minutes were solid. So yeah, him, Luke, like the fact that they're able to have these games, even if it's not a playoff thing, like you need these wins ultimately, and you need to be able to survive guys being out. You don't want to put it on Al. We've talked about how important it is to preserve Al during the regular season, heading into the playoffs, and how critical he becomes in some of those playoff matches. So, yeah, I was impressed by Nimi, and it wasn't, he made some mistakes. It wasn't perfect, but overall, I think that's as good as you're going to hope for, just considering the circumstances and just this matchup.
Yeah, I mean, the thing about Nimi, Luke, all those guys come off the bench is that as important as it is for them to put up decent numbers, the biggest thing they got to do is make an impact. Whether that's setting a good screen, whether that's closing out, whether that's altering a shot, they have to make an impact when they're on the floor because they are the ones that are not going to play major minutes. I thought Nimi did a really good job of making the most of his minutes. They weren't looking for him offensively per se, but he was able to get his hands on a few balls and get some shots to go down early on and draw some fouls and just do a lot of those little things that, your 9th, 10th guy, whatever they do, it's a bonus in terms of scoring and that such. But the biggest thing is he made an impact when he was on the floor. And that has to be the mindset if you're coming off this Celtics bench. It's not so much how many points I can score, but can I actually make a difference in this game with the minutes I get? And they had damn near everyone who came off the bench did that in this game.
We're gonna have to be kicked out too, but I just want to make sure. Can we just touch on Pritchard before I get off?
Yes. Yeah. You know what? You know who I didn't talk about tonight?
What did you say?
Jalen. Didn't talk about him, and I won't. But yes, we talked about Pritchard earlier, but you didn't get your shot, so go for it.
I'll be brief. I just want to say, I know we're talking about his numbers going down. I do think it's not a coincidence that he puts up this big stat line with Porzingis out tonight. Like again, like I've said this before, but I do think that his
Holiday
touches, it's gone down quite a bit. But I asked him about it post game, and that previous loss in that fourth quarter, he really spearheaded that comeback. He had 17 points in that fourth, and I asked him, like, did that carry over into tonight? He said, like, it definitely did, because he can kind of get a little robotic in this rotation, and that he almost needs to remind himself that he needs to be aggressive for this team. And I just think he can't, I don't want to see Pritchard like take 5 shots and like even Drew is okay if he does that. Like I think this team kind of the way that they've been constructed this season, they need that spark off the bench to kind of go off. And I thought that this was these last 2 games, like those back-to-back 20+ point performances from him are welcome because we haven't seen them since kind of earlier in the year. But I also think that a lot of the decrease was less about like him being in a slump because the shooting numbers never slipped. It was just the reality is like he's one of the first people to have to sacrifice their shot attempts. And so I'm advocating for him to keep getting these shot attempts and to keep being in that rhythm where like he's being aggressive and kind of looking for his, because I think it just makes this team so much more dynamic.
Should he be starting? Should he be the starter? Okay.
No, I'm not. No, I'm happy
Okay.
with
No.
him. I love him off the bench. I love having guys that can score off the bench.
Look, I think the thing.
Pull the Luke card. Just making sure we weren't pulling a Luke card.
The thing you said, I think, just kind of dovetails off of the bigger conversation we were having before. There's just too many guys who can do good things here, and sometimes they're not able to be utilized. And as we said, you see White sometimes. I mean, it was Holiday all of last year. He seemed to eat it while everybody else, was doing their thing. Pritchard is that. What Pritchard needs to be successful now, where's that coming out of? You know what I mean? It's like it's got to come out of somewhere. And you've added Porzingis back into the mix, and that's taken away from White. It's taken away from Tatum, taken away from Brown, taken away from Pritchard. So it's weird. They are finding that balance, and you're right. Pritchard does suffer a little bit there when he's got to kind of compete for this because there's just not as many, looks and touches and shots for everybody here. Especially what he's been accustomed to getting because of all that he did in the early part of the year, averaging 16 points a game through the first 2.5 months of the season. Bobby and Noah are getting kicked out of the Garden because they are tough there. Tough.
It's
Regs.
the only arena. I don't know why.
They get after you. The LA Forum can be a little bit tough that way too, but they're tough there at the Garden. Subscribe to our YouTube channels here. I don't know, Jake, if you guys are doing a show, but if they are, you guys should absolutely be watching First to the Floor and Celtics Late Night coming up here. Again, sign up for Prize Picks if you haven't. The big game is today. Promo code CLNS. New users play 5, get 50 instantly. Game time. You want to go check out the Celtics or anything, in town or wherever you are. Download that app. Code CLNS, $20 off your first purchase. Once again, the Celtics with possibly the win of the year going into New York, taking down the Knicks. This is now the 2 beasts of the East on the road with Cleveland and New York in 3 games. The Celtics have gone into their buildings and won these games. Has to make you feel better overall about where the Celtics are right now, as opposed to games like Dallas, which makes us all feel shitty and then yell at each other and argue, and nobody likes doing that. So we're much happy.
Fighting after Dallas?
No, I'm just saying the chat's frothy. We're okay. Everybody's a little. We were okay. We're not mad at each other. But everybody gets a little bit frothy out there. So thank you guys for hanging out with us. Enjoy the big game tomorrow. We are back. When are we back?
Tuesday.
Miami.
Monday?
Okay.
Monday,
Miami. Bobby and Noah are heading to Miami as well. Bobby never misses a bucket hat opportunity, so he'll be wearing it down there in Miami. Noah's heading down there as well. So much more Garden Report coming to you. Then we'll have Jimmy Toscano back as well. Thank you guys very much for watching. We do appreciate you, everyone with the super chats. That was great. And we will see you on Monday.
No one's sneaking a vegan brownie by me, I'll tell you that.
Okay, you know what, John? We're going to do it.
You have to feel that way too, Bobby.
I have to feel that way.
Yeah.
Slide Al over and make Luke your first center.
Bobby, we gave you Luke hour early. We're not going to end this on a damn conversation about Luke